we've hit up a lot on what Fnatic did wrong. I think we have to give a lot of kudos and praise to H2k. Forgiven and Vander did not make mistakes while under all of that pressure. H2k as a team matched that delayed lane swap. H2k as a team had one positional error with Ryu, and then the rest of the game was actually very clean, very safe, very controlled. And I want to see if H2k can maintain that level of play, because if they do, it sets them up well in the series. Again, top lane focus, Echo and Shen removed. Are you surprised by that at all, maybe,
No,
Fisher?
not at all. I think Shen is actually the only champion you have to basically perban right now. I think he's just too good. Every lane matchup is okay for him, and he has a crazy OP global in this meta. So that is not a surprise, and now you can start target banning.
2 new bans, though, for this series. The Gragas ban, the Echo ban, and I think this will throw H2k a little bit, but once they slow down, think of the options. Rek'Sai is still there. That is one jungler that can be comparable to the Gragas, no longer available. Elise and Nidalee both still up as well. Fnatic,
Take that back.
is this
Nidalee.
first pick Nidalee again?
I mean, that's what they're setting up for.
Right?
Very clearly what they're setting up for.
Has to.
A lot of jungle focus. This is where suddenly things like Olaf and Lee Sin
Yeah?
get back into the pick and ban phase, because now you have all the top tier
Or
junglers.
Rumble if Nidalee gets banned.
Maybe stupid stuff like Rumble. But this is still like, it's also a question, does Jankos even want to play Nidalee?
But the Irelia ban completely screws Fnatic's pacing in this, because suddenly the Gnar shoots up in priority, just like the pick and ban from Sunday, where Fnatic are kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't when you look at matchups into this. H2k, if they have an option against the Gnar now, can maybe look to offset some of that, but it has to be because I was going to say Elise here, but Nidalee, Jankos may want to stray away from.
I mean, that's the thing. Does Jankos even want to play Nidalee?
Yeah.
Does he want to play jungler where he's a lot more focused around ganking? That's one of the big questions. Then he can run Olaf. If he wants to, he can run Lee Sin. We know he's a fantastic Lee Sin player, mainly from back in the day and not really anymore. But for H2k on their side, when they saw this Gnar early pick by Kikis last time, they went GP. And they're like, yeah, we don't care. We're just going to go and focus bottom lane. We're going to use that global ulti. We're actually going to use it. We're not just going to have it. We're going to use it. They might look to do exactly the same like before.
Well, here's the Sivir rotation, seeing the Gnar taken away, look for that AD carry, and the answer to the question of would it be the Nidalee that is available, Jankos will take that up, and Spirit, we don't talk about hovers too much, but the Graves we did see come out in the Giants Unicorn series. I wasn't a big fan of it at the time. I know a lot of people weren't either. It is the Spirit kind of farm up and hope nothing happens in the early game jungler, but that doesn't really work so well on 615.
I prefer his Lee Sin over the Gragas. I think Fnatic, if you look at the entire year with Spirit on the lineup, have done well when Spirit is on junglers where he's super active in terms of ganking. When he's setting up Febiven, kind of pushing him out of lane, being like, now you're out of the lane, now you got to go somewhere else and do something. You can't just sit here, you know, we need you to get fed and we need you to be a carry, because Febiven is one of these guys where we know the talent is there. The guy is a fantastic mid laner, but it's been very hard for him to show it this split. Also, the meta wasn't really in his favor specifically, because it's been very, very low impact mid for most of it. And now we go back to farming jungler, scaling jungler, and not really early pressure specifically in terms of proper ganks.
But Spirit, this split as well, has not really been that style. You know, he has had a few games, but overall, a little bit more the farming one. I want to see what Jankos does. We started game 1 of this series talking about how Jankos is a lot more of a gank, kill-focused jungler, whereas Spirit is more of this farm style. Now Jankos is playing a champion that doesn't traditionally fit that role. And I want to measure just how much of an impact it has on H2k's early game.
Couple of options for this rotation. If we look for the GP that we would assume going top lane for H2k, Karma could come out if they want dual ranged in the bottom lane and the flex potential.
Or run
Other
Taric
option
again.
would be the Taric into the Braum. We saw it in the previous game. Maybe a little more difficult to pull off some of the stuns with only having the Sivir as opposed to the Tristana, but still is an option there if they want that matchup.
Yeah, and they do want that matchup, so glad to see H2k agree with what we're talking about, especially also with GP top. I mean, that was the one where, yeah, GP, especially after Frozen Mallet is completed, he hates that lane. Like, he absolutely hates it. He can't do anything in the laning phase against that Frozen Mallet Gnar. But you have that ulti, and you have to use that ulti to snowball the rest of your map. You surrender your own lane by giving more pressure to your other lane, and therefore, you don't use the ulti, well, you're just going to lose.
Now, does Febiven for this mid lane look for the Vlad? Even though there are good matchups on the other side for H2k, Ryu's Cassiopeia has not been the most impactful pick for them. He's played it twice, and unless something has changed in the last 2 weeks, I haven't felt particularly comfortable watching that matchup. The Cassian is also available if they want it.
You could also Lissandra again. I don't think, like, Lissandra's problem is that she does really poor against almost everything, so like you can actually blind pick because it almost doesn't matter what they pick against you, and you will still like lose lanes slightly anyway. So that's why I think Lissandra is a perfectly acceptable blind pick, but it requires Febiven to have bigger impact than last game.
Actually push the buttons. Yeah. Actually teleport. Find opportunities for the rest of the team to set up.
Do you think we just see the Vlad come out here because it won't be the LeBlanc into the Lissandra? That's not a great matchup for the LeBlanc either, so we could just see Ryu do the same thing again.
Could, or something like Talia. Where right now your focus is H2k, you know, it's around having that global for the bottom lane. If you add in a mid laner who can also appear in the bottom lane with like Talia's ulti, she can perma push mid and then just ulti down. You can actually keep putting pressure, because now if you're H2k, if you want to play aggressive at all, you need to respect the double TP. So you need some sort of global yourself, or you need something in the mid lane that says, guys, let's not play aggressive and just wait to scale. So that could be the Vladimir, obviously, in that case. But I kind of want to see Ryu play Talia because I think he's great at it.
Especially if he channels his week 9 performance.
That
where he hit every single combo. But with the last few seconds on the clock, it'll actually be the Vladimir. So
will be the scaling.
Not going to be the Talia. Still going to be the teleports and the globals for Fnatic versus the Cannon Barrage teleport for GP. I feel like Fnatic have drafted a simpler composition to execute this time around. Follow the Gnar, follow the Lissandra, and kill whoever they hit. I think that is hopefully going to help out those communication issues we saw from game 1.
Well, I mean, they drafted a comp where, once again, they got to use the teleports. Last game, they didn't even put down a aggressive ward in the enemy jungle they could even TP to in the first place. They just kept pushing against the same tower without really changing anything, which is why it was so hard for him to do anything. We also get to see the Lucian from Reckless, which is a pick some AD carries like to use against Sivir to kind of bully her around in the laning phase, and it needs to happen for Fnatic.
Well, Fnatic are up against 4/5 of one heck of a team fighting composition. A GP, a Vlad, a Sivir, a Taric, like very strong team fight.
Everything is AoE.
Goes. Yeah, everything. Nidalee maybe not so much, but nobody really cares about that.
Yeah, but we don't care about her.
Yeah, exactly. But for Fnatic, one benefit, perhaps they've drafted Kikis, a matchup where as long as he doesn't make a mistake and overextend, he should have control. The GP doesn't really do too well into the Gnar. Maybe this time it won't quite be as one-sided against Fnatic.
We'll have to find out whether or not Kikis can have a better game, whether or not Fnatic can pull the trigger, and also whether or not H2k are just going to have that same level of clean and crisp play. Guys, don't forget the hashtags for today. Hashtag Wrecking Crew, no G, or hashtag God-Given with the #1. Jump onto Twitter and let us know who you think is going to be victorious in game number 2. And also keep your eyes on our bot lane stream over on EU LCS 2. Crepo, Sven, and Mithy keeping a close eye on that one. We will be doing the same because one of the other guys that we're going to look at is Yellowstar. The game kind of went on around him.
Yeah.
Game number 1, not really a positive or negative impact, but this is a guy who there have been question marks during the course of the split in terms of his performance and his ability to lead this team.
Yeah, I would say during the entire year. Obviously, after joining TSM, didn't have a successful stay. Returns to Fnatic, and we expected, you know, the captain was back, the shot caller was back, that it would help some of the macro game. But I think at this point, guys, we know now Yellowstar is not like the guy who is so responsible of like pure shot caller.
Kikis.
He's not.
He has no jump.
Good sidestep from Kikis. Here comes Spirit.
Ryu.
Here comes Ryu. This could be first blood at 1.5 minutes. Flash forward. Kikis over the wall. Jankos is going to look to throw out the javelin. Going to get body blocked. All right, so what does this cost? Flash for Jankos and Ghost for Ryu versus Flash for Kikis. Level 3 cheese gang? Come on, do it, Jankos.
And a recall for Spirit. This is going to slow his jungle pathing fairly significantly early on here. Jankos is fairly low as well, but now Spirit has to make a couple of different decisions here. Can't really start on any tough camp like Krugs or the Grump, which, to be honest, everything kind of hurts this early on in the game. So now we have to see what Spirit's adjustment is here. Doesn't choose to recall. It's going to take the more difficult pathing early on, so we'll watch this jungle matchup too.
Fnatic trying the same play again down the bottom lane, where they hide and they're ready to try and surprise the guys doing the camp at level 1. I'm not always the biggest fan of doing camp on Sivir because it means you can't really early push that effectively. You also get to start with Q instead of W for that fast pushing. And now they're going to find Yellow Star. Like last time, he plays Braum, strong level 1. And you can see Reckless this time around has gotten much more of a push going. But now Forgiven is going to even it out and get level 2. So not a whole lot is going to happen after that little camp start.
Yeah, it won't quite be just as even until Reckless can actually step forward, or sorry, Forgiven can step forward and keep evening out. But now here it is. This is the point where the matchup has changed a little bit, and Vander goes aggressive.
Oh, a lot of damage onto Yellow Star. Stun not going to find Forgiven. Yellow Star's forced to back away with about 200 hit points.
But like again, Fnatic here tried to chase Forgiven, who's level 2 by the way, when Reckless was only level 1, also chasing into the minion wave. Really don't understand the decision from Fnatic's bottom lane at all. First of all, you can even run in and just stop the camp. You don't have to sit there and wait. Normally, if you play like a Karma lane, you can sit in that bush and you can bully them out because your Karma Mantra Q is so insanely good early and you try and take advantage of them being late for lane. But right now, Reckless and Yellows are just kind of allowing Vander and Forgiven a free lane.
Look at Ryu, though, in the mid lane, pushing heavily early on. Normally, you'd say that was exploitable, but Spirit got chunked out fairly early. Look how low Spirit still is out of that jungle. And on Graves, no real impact without Featherman going all in here to get the crowd control in the lane, and Ryu will telegraph that very easily this early on. So Spirit can't have the impact early on. Jankos wants him, though. He wants to get into Spirit's jungle, and here, look at the health disparity. Nidalee obviously able to sustain herself up early on, now is taking away the buff. 3-buff start, potentially, of Jankos.
Yeah, and this all goes back to level 1, where Spirit gets chunked down, so he's even lower than normal because he didn't recall in his first jungle clear. Now he dashed into the wall. Like, everything right now is going wrong. If you look at just how individual players are playing on the side of Fnatic. I know it's very micro things, but like the bottom lane, like, not the best trade early from Yellow Star. Now Spirit, obviously, not able to really do a whole lot against Jankos.
It all adds up, though, DeFisher.
It does, I mean, yeah.
It is micro things now, but it is leading to a 400 gold lead already with just small CS advantages across multiple lanes, and those start to trickle, eventually become a snowball that could eventually, trample whoever's underneath it.
And Featherman had to spend a fair amount of time then trying to cover for Spirit, because Spirit was communicating he was trying to go aggressive, which basically has given Ryu just about a wave extra of farm from mid lane. So trying again to output his presence in the mid lane. Featherman was so afraid at times to TP out because of how much work Ryu was doing, shoving the wave back out, trying to punish. Here's Febby, though, going back, going to utilize the teleport early on to get himself back to lane, gets himself magic resistance, and now should be fairly comfortable for the next 5 minutes or so.
Still though, if you're H2k, you're waiting for Odoamne to hit level 6, and then you start moving Jankos to the bottom lane, and you start setting up that siege Fnatic was setting up in the last game, and you use that GP ulti aggressively. That's kind of your way to play the game if you're H2k, and then let Ryu just push mid as much as possible and try and keep Febiven down, because if he keeps Febby down, Febby can't go anywhere without losing potentially a tower or just a ton of CS.
Just barely fortunate timing. Featherman didn't use the TP to get back to mid lane. So actually got gifted a bit of a recall timing there. Only lost 1 minion to the tower.
But this is where now Fnatic needs a ward in the bottom lane. Near one of these bushes here, close to the wall. So suddenly Febiven can show up with a teleport in case Forgiven and Vander are overextending, and you pick up a very easy first blood. Right now they don't have any wards because they're being pushed back, but now they get to reset the wave, and you gotta place it.
And the impact of their play actually just got weakened because Kikis wanted to match Odoamne's teleport, so he just used his. So instead of a potential 5-man or 4-man if you're only using the TPs in the bottom lane, now it's down to 3. Because you can get the Lissandra, it should be enough early on, but it's not quite the same level of potency if they can actually get them in there.
So I'm not the biggest hater when it comes to Kikis TP top. I think that's actually okay, because again, you're using the Lissandra TP, that's your advantage anyway. And Kikis wants to return to that lane to try and stay even with Odoamne and rush for that Frozen Mallet, because once you get the Frozen Mallet, you have a guaranteed winning lane on the side of Fnatic that they need to use.
Well, might be a winning lane down bottom. Jankos gets exhausted. Here comes Spirit. Smokescreen will at least block out some of the vision, but Spirit, he pieces out. Yellow Star forced to flash away from the Javelin. Reckless was not with the team. He'd already backed to pick up that Serrated Dirk.
And you can see as soon as Odoamne hits level 6, gets his ulti, well, Jankos is already on the bottom side. He's ready to apply pressure, because suddenly if Fnatic are trying to fight, well then GP ulti is going to appear instantly. And again, this is why teams are okay surrendering these lanes with GP later on, because they want to use that extra global to set up that 2v2 on the bottom side of the map. But obviously for H2k, it's slow and steady still. They're not doing anything crazy by any means.
And of course, you talked about that 2v2 on the bottom side. Forgiven, Sivir into Lucian, not the greatest, but Tarak into Braum, not terrible. And Forgiven and Vander, they've just been pushing. BF Sword versus the Dirk. So that's going to help out Forgiven in terms of keeping that wave pushed and keeping Reckless, again, playing defensive, playing on the back foot. Fnatic with those globals haven't had the opportunity yet, but it's now starting to get to that time where you expect it to happen.
I'm interested to see how Fnatic's vision control is going to pan out for the rest of this game as well. We're seeing the red smite come out from Spirit, which we do see from time to time, but Graves not really known as a Sightstone buyer when you look at the jungle matchup, wants a little bit more damage. So I'm just wondering now the reliance on Yellow Star, maybe more yellow trinkets coming out. It's not a major point or major weakness for Fnatic, but it's just something I want to track as this game continues, because they need those wards for the TP plays.
Yeah, definitely Spirit building for himself right now, being stronger in his own personal skirmish when he wants to go for it. And it's the Spirit style. It's kind of the thing that's happened this split for Spirit. He's gone back to the traditional LPL style for himself, where it's a lot about him, power farming, not really setting up your lanes or anything, where Jankos is, as you said, the opposite. He's the kind of guy who ganks for the team, and that's why he prefers Elise over the likes of Nidalee. But in this game, they were all banned, so yeah, had to take the best thing available.
It even got to the point where we saw Jankos in one game building the Phage first on Hecarim, where we're like, normally every jungler just wants Sheen to go in and kill people, but Jankos has been playing more for the team more recently. We'll see how he can do that a bit on the Nidalee in those siege situations, perhaps those early skirmishes as well. Jankos has already been in the mix quite significantly.
Also, notice that Reckless and Yellow Star, after now these first backs from ADCs, they are the ones pushing. There is not a very big, actually there's no way for Forgiven to catch up on, so he finds himself down about 10 or so CS. As this wave will slowly come closer to him. Yellow Star and Reckless zoning him away, actually, for the first time all game.
Yeah, so 2v2, but also again the respect being given to Fnatic and the teleports. Yeah, if you start randomly pushing now against Lissandra with the ulti, well, you just kind of surrender first blood instantly, and then you lose your own tower. So they have to respect it. That's also why Jankos is not invading anything. All of H2k kind of sitting far back on the map at the moment.
And the CS difference actually comes from where Reckless recalled early, and that's where Yellow Star's flash was burned. He then obviously gets back to lane earlier, can push the wave back out against Forgiven. So his bot lane, as you can see,
hey,
not the only place to talk about it.
It is not. It is a party, though, because Spirit wants to say hello to Forgiven and Vander. Flash away from Vander as the Cosmic Radiance just about ticks off. Teleport was used by Febby, though. And this time around, Fnatic, they're going to look to get some damage on the tower. There's some support from H2k.
Yeah, we finally get to see Fnatic actually use that Lissandra TP early to force H2k back. They want to go for this first tower now. This is why they're drafting these Lissandra picks, these globals, so they can be very aggressive.
Oh, GP ult is gone. Hemoblade comes out. TP is channeled. Is it going to complete? No. Cancel out from Kikis, but this should result in the tower if the wave is there. Only 2 minions. Ryu does a good job of picking that up. Didn't quite catch it in time, but Fnatic, critical damage to the tower.
But they didn't kill it. And now your teleport is on a very long cooldown.
Hold up. It's the Fnatic bush. It's the Fnatic bush. Rio's going to get caught by the tomb. Here comes Spirit. Sanguine Pool's going to buy some time. Javelin toss from Jankos. Looking for a pounce. Does he fancy the damage? Not just yet. Good Unbreakable Shield comes up from Yellow Star, and Ryu manages to survive. And this time around, it's the Fnatic tower under pressure.
Yeah, you don't try and death push Ryu here. He's the man who's doing this all the way back in his old days when he was a young guy in Korea fighting against legends like Faker, obviously. He was the man always sitting in bushes waiting. Jankos being as annoying as possible, cancelling recalls, buying time. And this is why it's such a problem for Fnatic, that first of all, they didn't have a big wave when they were pushing and making that TP play to return to and take down tower. And because H2k were able to defend again, they stopped the push, they returned damage, they now take that first tower again.
For the second game in a row, what should have been a Fnatic proactive play onto the enemy tower has resulted in them losing tower first blood. You can see it at the bottom of your screen, just how much more significant that first tower of the game is. An additional 400 gold across the team, 275 to Forgiven and Vander, who are right down there by the turret.
Forgiven actually donated most of the local gold over. I believe he made it off screen in time. So Forgiven's going to have a very big, boost in power. Finishes off those Greaves, picks himself up that Caulfield's hammer. And of course, Dragon secured by H2k as well. And it's It's a 2,000 gold lead. It's tower advantage, it's map advantage.
Right.
H2k are once again in control.
Summoner spells in favor of H2k because Gangplank ulti is much shorter cooldown than a teleport. So now H2k have the global pressure if they want to keep making plays around Forgiven, around Vander. And yeah, while they had to back off the tower, they're now back down here to try and defend another time. Fnatic realizing they can't stay and push, respecting what could have happened if they stayed. It's very low. It's just a few hits. Fnatic will need it to try and even out some of this gold here, but they're 2,000 down.
Spirit's trying to go top against GP ult and a GP that has two.
Oh, they can kill Ram.
They can kill him if this hits.
There's a flash, dash forward from Spirit. The house doesn't connect, but the Cannon Barrage obviously does. End of the line bounces back. There's a fight down bottom. The Cosmic Radiance will block a lot of the damage as Yellowstar sends a sideways Glacial Fissure. There's simply no tower to fall back to. A double pounce from Jankos. One more little tag from the Javelin, and that's first blood to the First Blood King.
Oh, Spirit up in the top lane. He had no mana to ulti, so Odoamne stays alive, and suddenly Fnatic find themselves overextended on the bottom lane and gets ganked by Jankos. Another first blood for him. The play from Spirit was perfectly fine, would have given a kill in the tower, and then you miss some mana.
But it's the same scenario as game one where Jankos sees, okay, Spirit's the other side of the map. I'm just going to go in the other side and get a kill for myself. And this ultimately ends up as first blood. So again, Forgiven and Vander getting shoved in here.
But what is Reckless doing? Like the guys over at the bot lane stream here, they're going to be so angry because your jungler is chasing top lane and then you dash forward in the bottom lane.
Against Tarek.
Look at the minimap as well. There was one ward from Fnatic in the river. One little ward in that little bush here, just north of the top lane, that can actually spot a jungler. Why would you ever dash forward? That is so greedy, and you get punished for it. H2k, again, it's slow and steady. They are not making any crazy plays. They're just reacting to what Fnatic is doing, and they're just doing it better.
Especially when you're up against a Civet in a long lane with no turret. Like, you don't even have the turrets there for security that you can get back behind. So really curious play out of Fnatic again, where we kind of can look at these small errors in the lane, which are becoming big problems for them. The spell shielding at certain times in game one, now Reckless dashing forward, using these big cooldowns in lane, is just kind of giving away these skirmish opportunities to H2k, and H2k every single time they're going to get something from it. That's what basically got H2k lead before.
Yeah, H2k just got to back away now. Febiven goes missing in the mid lane. Tower's already low, so you know high chance he would appear in the bottom lane. So now Fnatic will finally get a tower. But still, you got to respect the fact that H2k have picked up so much early gold now. Will start being a big advantage in terms of items later on. Rio also level up on Febiven.
Yeah, golf claps from the audience because yes, Fnatic got that tower, but they're still in 2,500 gold hole. Frozen Mallet was picked up by Kikis very early, a minute or two ago, so this is going to help him out against Odo, and Forgiven the respect on the hunt just to get away from any potential threats.
Yeah, it's definitely not impossible for Fnatic to win the game, because Frozen Mallet North, that's big. That's why Kikis used TP back to lane to rush that item. So he has full control. He will take down that top tower eventually. Give him a minute or two, that tower is dead. So that's a winning lane for Fnatic now. At the same time, Lucian is the best AD carry sitting in the side lane, because he's a very strong skirmish AD carry, so he can control the side lane if he wants to, or he can wave to mid. He has two options. And now you have TP from Febiven as well. Rio is roaming top to try and punish Kikis with Jankos as well, but they're going to lose that tower no matter what.
All right, so tower should be falling. No, Minion's not going to take it down yet. Kikis has got the crunch and the flash. Flashes away first, looking for a little bit more mobility. Ryu's going to keep chasing down, can reset with the Sanguine Bull. Nom misses everyone, and it's Jankos that gets the kill.
And what should have been a certain tower for Fnatic has turned a little bit round now into a push. They're going to try and even up mid, but they've only got 2 minions left in that wave. They've already lost their mid tower as well.
So, Fnatic with their mid tower, Vander trying to stop it. Top lane tower, by the way, from H2k is on 22 HP. So it could have been a trade for Fnatic, getting 2 towers for 1, and also Kick is dying. They can go down to bottom lane and apply pressure again. They have Febiven moving from the mid lane.
Oh, but look at this. Down in the bottom lane, the tower's under pressure. Fnatic, they fancy themselves a shot. The Claw of Doom sends Febiven forward. Odo is going to be preventing the damage thanks to that Cosmic Radiance. Frozen Tomb comes out, but it's Yellowstar that's gone down. Febiven forced to flash away, and H2k, they defend the push and get themselves a kill.
It's almost getting too easy for H2k to defend against this. Fnatic dives in, very telegraphed, so ulti gets popped by Vander, and at the same time, then Fnatic both members got stunned. Both Yellowstar and Febby got stunned at the same time, and then they pick also the Gangplank, who just eats an orange and he's out of it. This is the kill on Kikis after forcing the flash. You can see Ryu just dancing around the Mega Gnar.
And only 2 minions were left in the wave after Kikis started backing away, so Odo autoed one and let the tower do the work on the other. Knew that it just barely had enough. I mean, that tower's going down. They've sent Reckless up there, though, so Reckless is going to be the one to push that down. This could potentially be exploited by H2k if they can get enough people on the top side of the map.
Also, just on the way out, Fnatic lost Febiven as well. His death timer was just ticking over as we came out of that replay, so an additional kill to H2k. I think it was picked up by Vander, if I recall correctly, and that tower will die eventually.
And while Fnatic still have access to these turrets and will get them down, the problem is, if you look at H2k's comp, as we talked about in Champ Select, the scaling is fantastic when it gets to come into late game fights. Sivir, Taric, Vladimir, Gangplank, all fantastic late game team fighters. So for Fnatic, it's not only bad being down 3,000 gold in like effectiveness of champions, and later on you're even further down. Right now, Fnatic needs to keep playing aggressive, and they have to force fights with Lissandra and try and actually claw their way back into this game. They can't wait 10, 15 minutes.
And you can see what H2k did there is a good job to punish Fnatic again, essentially attacking... Oh, hang on, Jankos.
Reckless takes a lot of damage from Jankos. Ryu's come in with the Hemo Plague. Reckless is already down. Yellowstar's now in trouble. Defensive flash from Spirit and the rest of H2k. They're running for Fnatic. Ryu is rooted in place by Febby. He's only going to buy a few seconds time, and the Glacial Path pulled the trigger too early. Febiven does not escape, and the kill is secured by Jankos. 3-0-3, the Carnivorous Jungle King on Spirit's famous champion. Jankos is putting on a clinic with the rest of H2k.
Fnatic tried to push in that top lane, then move down towards the mid lane, and suddenly find 5 members from H2k in the jungle, and instantly collapsed on multiple angles. Fnatic were able to, or H2k were able to engage, and this is the old dive. Look at the target selection here. They want to go for Forgiven, then they realize we're not in range for Forgiven, they get stunned. Then they go for suddenly the Gangplank, who just eats his orange, and then it does nothing. Terrible target selection from Fnatic, and they butcher another dive.
This, I believe, is the kill now on Febiven. Just caught on the... Oh, he's on a ward over.
Unlucky.
Ah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's unlucky.
The one died, then he goes to the other bush that was warded. Ah, that's real tough. But, I mean, I want to see the replay that we just had of the fight.
Fight after fight.
I want to see why Reckless was deep in the jungle.
Well, they were
I think it was warding. I think he was deep warding, but was placing wards down there by the looks of it. Fnatic are going to...
Do they kill it? Do they kill it? Do they kill it?
Oh.
No, they do not even get it. Too late to the party. I mean... Oh, that's cold graphics, guys.
Yeah.
They actually that's what Fnatic would have got
if
they'd pulled off the buff correctly.
Even
and it's just
Baron is against Fnatic right now.
Yeah. Which is ironic, right? The team that has had so many famous Baron players, that is famed for their...
Maybe that's why Baron hates them.
Yeah, getting one
Every
back.
single time, you know, he's alive for like 20 minutes and then he gets killed by Fnatic.
Baron remembers.
So they're basically running from top side down to try and meet with Febiven in the mid lane, but Febiven didn't even have a wave he was pushing in, so they actually just ran straight down, almost blind, into the open arms of 5 H2k members.
Yeah, we got the answer on Reckless because he was just dashed forward to try and avoid Jankos and suddenly finds Odo Amne in front of him. Like, he was trying to get himself out of there, but
I mean, as soon
ended up
as you're
putting
caught
himself
in
close.
there, that's it, right?
All right, Ryu, a little overextended. They pick up a lot of damage onto Reckless, actually. I take it back. Yellowstar and Reckless, they're overextended. They shouldn't have picked the fight. Ryu's going to come in, but Jankos is on a rampage. His 4th kill of the game. Jankos is everywhere Fnatic does not want him to be.
This is becoming increasingly frustrating to watch when you look at it. Fnatic trying to just make these little plays, trying to cut corners, and not recognizing where the rest of H2k are on the map. Fnatic do not have the vision control to be making those kinds of plays. Look at the jungle where H2k have just dropped like 4 or 5 wards all through the top side. Fnatic don't have the same on either side of the map. They have 2 wards out on the lower side.
And let's just praise H2k for how well they're actually playing in this game. Yeah, one thing is a team making mistakes, Another thing is a team actually punishing these mistakes. And H2k have had very, very clear communication, have been able to react to every single play. Fnatic have done 2 games in a row now.
Yep.
Every time Fnatic is doing something, H2k knows what's happening. They're able to, you know, disengage at first and re-engage, defend towers when we think they're already dead, and then just constantly punish Fnatic.
And for a matchup that coming into it was defined by 2 individual players, H2k have shown no signs of a broken team. They have shown no signs of unsettlement, and they have played as a team to be in this position and get these leads. H2k have looked like a really solid unit in both games so far.
And I think you have to give a little bit of unsung praise to Vander this particular game. His Taric ultimates, his, you know, ability to turn some of those 3v4s, those 2v3s initially, buying enough time for then Jankos to arrive on this Nidalee, is just showing in terms of the lead that H2k has accrued.
Right, and not to talk about player, but talk about champion. The Braum on the other side, 2 games in a row have had 0 impact.
Yeah.
And it's picked early by Fnatic. First game they picked the first rotation, now they picked the second rotation. They show that Braum instantly, and it allows picks like Taric and Tahm Kench to appear. Like, Tahm Kench is a fantastic support pick we haven't even seen yet, even though he's so strong in the current meta, just because Fnatic are picking this Braum so early for absolutely 0 reason.
Yeah.
There are much better supports in the current meta.
And, you know, if you are picking that, it has to show in game.
Yeah, we have to see it, right?
You have to see the reason for it when you put such a high priority on the champion. And H2k, they're just demonstrating a better grasp of their team performance and their play on this patch. Look at the gold lead, 7,000 at this point, 8 kills to 0. Got themselves a few dragons. Infernal's up next. There's no ways Fnatic can challenge that one unless H2k make a mistake. And for Fnatic, they've now got to buy so much time.
I mean, we got to keep in mind, the one winning lane for Fnatic is the Gnar against GP. So that lane can at least get pushed, and right now they put the Gnar in the bottom lane, so you can push in that wave and then set up for Dragon. But even if you get an Infernal Drake now as Fnatic, it's not really what you want. Like, you want gold, you want items, you don't need, at this moment, scaling, because the late game is not in your favor anyway.
And while you say and talk about Kikis having the winning matchup in the winning lane, I don't feel like it's enough for a Fnatic to win this game. I don't think this is significantly far ahead to the point where Odoamne is constantly up against it. He's GP with the teleport. He's going to get into a fight. He wave clears and appears. It's not quite as drastic as the Echo matchup that we saw in the previous game. So H2k didn't even sweat anything on that Baron. They're taking down the Infernal, and H2k can just continue to push Fnatic back.
Well, decent damage onto Ryu, but he will literally just regen that back up, so it means nothing to him. Once again, gone for that Abyssal Scepter Protobelt build. Hourglass, looking like Rylai is going to be the next itemization there. Add to the tankiness, and you know, even though Kikis was pushing the wave, he backed to do some shopping, pick up their Randians. Instantly, H2k respond. There was no hesitation. They pulled the trigger, grabbed themselves a dragon uncontested, and that's something that H2k have done both games.
It's the beauty of shot calling when your team is 7k gold.
Yes, yes.
It's like, oh, is that a dragon? Let's go dragon, guys. You know, they're not going to contest it anyway. It's the free objective for us, and if they do, well, then you're just a very smart shot caller who made a perfect call, who got yourself in a 5-on-5 team fight where you are 7k gold ahead. So
that then also gets you better.
Right. I mean, it's hard for H2k right now to mess up the actual calling. They can start putting some attention towards the Baron, but they're just looking to deal with Kikis in this bottom lane and just have Odoamne wave clear and then actually look for another fight.
I'm going to buy into some of the hype that came into this. Give a stat with no explanation and very shallow and bail out. One thing for Fnatic, Reckless, both games, I believe he's been up in CSD. He's been farming more heavily. Wrecking Crew, got it on this one. God given no more.
Move on, Trevor.
Yeah, so H2k do not care.
Exactly.
They definitely do not care.
Because the game has not been defined by the AD carry, right? Like, yes, Fnatic tried to play the 2v2, try to dive Forgive in both games. It has not resulted in anything successful. It didn't get them first blood, it didn't get them towers, and even with some pressure, this game, a lot more pressure game one, Forgiven and Vander have come away looking much more comfortable, much more happy, and the team around H2k, with Jankos and Odo and Ryu, they are the ones that are truly driving home this lead and this advantage.
Yeah, and just the timing have been off. If you look at Fnatic, when they tried to make plays around bottom lane, one thing is obviously bottom lane making mistakes, but then everyone else as well. They're going out for that fight.
Yeah, Dazzle onto Reckless. Very nicely done from Vander, but H2k, they're going very deep. Spirit is forced away. Flash into exhaust for Ryu. Hemoplague's down and Yellow's already killed. Ryu's going to continue to heal up with those transfusions. Dazzle flashed by Febiven, so he's not locked up. H2k get themselves a kill, and they're forced to back away, maybe towards Baron.
Odo was already moving to Baron. The call had been made by H2k, push them all the way back, get yourselves over to Baron, and what a stun by Vander at the beginning of that. Just getting the double lockdown onto Spirit. Hang on, TPs are coming out from Fnatic here. This is Kikis that has appeared.
Yeah, Kikis as well as Febiven, they were on the same ward. In fact, Febby has got that Glacial Tomb available to him.
H2k have no ultis right now. Febby's going in!
Febby's got in, but he didn't get the ulti. Killed by Forgiven. The 5-man H2k stack. Baron down to 1500. It's now helping Fnatic ever so slightly. H2k turn their focus. They're trying not to let Baron regen. It already is. So for the cost of Febiven and 2 TPs, Fnatic has stopped Baron. Kikis may go down as well. He leaps and hops over the wall. Yellow Star dashes to his safety with Stand Behind Me. And the Baron's been interrupted.
Yeah, it was a bit of a crazy call from H2k with 0 ultis available, and then suddenly 4 members from Fnatic joining, but Febiven wasn't able to do anything other than just jump into the Baron pit and die instantly. So H2k didn't get the Baron, but they got another kill and no one died, which is the important thing for them to not give Fnatic any gold at this point.
But what makes it more difficult, the next step for Fnatic is that was your TPs. Both of them
And
used for the next 2.5 minutes.
All but one flash.
Yeah.
So not only was your globals gone now, but all of your utility summoners too.
Let's remember, guys, H2k was a team who would outscale Fnatic anyway.
Yep.
So when you also give them 5k gold lead early on in the game, now even more, well, that scaling is going to kick in much, much earlier. So Fnatic at this point is already outscaled there. They have to just try these crazy engagements in fights, but without teleport. We need Febiven to pull off like a 2015 Febiven play for that to happen.
Well, it has to be better than that because of how far behind they are. Fnatic are looking for Jankos. That's 1 kill. But now Fnatic are split up. Kikis can't get in. There's no flash. The triple dazzle. Vander is amazing everybody. Cosmic Radiance is already used. It's a double kill for Odo. Turn the pressure back around into Fnatic. Kikis can't even join the fight. Because H2k were better positioned, Fnatic dove so deep.
From what was initially a good pickup onto Jankos, there was the scaling and the crowd control that came out from H2k. Massive damage comes from Odo and Ryu, and 3 people get locked down on the same spot. H2k instantly turned the fight back around, and the pressure is back on Fnatic once again.
And I think at this point, H2k say thank you very much for this Nidalee pick as well. It was gifted to us. Obviously, Fnatic wanted to first pick the Gnar to have that winning lane matchup, but H2k have been able to use this gangplank perfectly fine.
After Fnatic banned Gragas and Elise, you ban 2 junglers and then suddenly you go, uh-oh, they took away our counter matchup to Gnar. And now Jankos, even though he dies at the beginning of this, the damage is already going to come out from H2k. Look at where Odo Amne comes from. Found a beautiful stun again. Multiple this game have landed, and in comes Odo.
Also, if I saw that correctly, I think Kikis messed up the crunch. I think he actually face planted on the first part of trying to jump into the fight. So just problems absolutely everywhere for
Story
Fnatic.
of Kiki's performance so far in this series, to be honest. We've not really been seeing anything from him. Game 1 where he had the gangplank, he built really wrong. He just went like full DPS, no MR, no Hexdringer against like triple AP. Died 5 times or something to the Echo. They're trying to look for another fight. If you are Fnatic, this is basically the only way back. It's like a massive Mega Gnar into like Sandro.
There's no flash though. Kikis simply can't get on, and now H2k, they turn it round. Cannon Barrage is down, Reckless below, 300 HP. Hemoplague should be enough to kill him. Dazzle comes out, Kikis throws a knob, and nobody is stunned. Reckless follows Kikis to the graveyard, and H2k have got themselves 3. There's no damage. H2k wipe Fnatic and turn their sights on the base.
That's the game for H2k. Basically, they can take whatever they want from this point.
They want the Baron, not the game.
Have so much in the lead right now. 30-second death time is all over the board. This is should be an easy closeout for the H2k squad.
Definitely so. So we will use that line in like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So we need another fight.
Thing is,
Odo wants to end.
I quite like this. I quite like this from H2k. No shenanigans, no risk.
Yeah.
They've got a sizable lead. There is so much on the line. Championship points, a spotting Krakow with Polish players on the
Performing
H2k line.
playoffs, Trevor, as H2k finally living up to the expectations. Like, that's the main thing for these guys now, being able to challenge Splice in a semi-final.
Here
Let's see
was
the fight stress.
Here was the turn again, because suddenly, as you said, no flash to close the distance, and oh, GPL comes out. In comes Ryu from the flank. Look at how much that first Tides of Blood ends up doing on 4 different points of the fight. Easy damage output from H2k. Featherman does his best to get into the backline and shut down anybody that he can. He did get forgiven, but honestly, it was not going to be enough at that point to win the fight.
And do you think before the changes to death timers, they probably would have been able to end, but obviously they got reduced a little bit. We're only 30 minutes into the game. Like,
Don't complain, they'll come back.
yeah, no, do not give us, don't bring him back. You know, we like it as it is right now. The fact we're only 30 minutes into this game, and it feels like H2k have just been winning and winning and winning and winning since like minute 5.
Sorry, let me correct you there, Deficio. Since picks and bans.
Sure.
You know, it's 2 games in a row now that H2k have felt like they've come away with a good draft, or, you know, elements of the draft that are good, and then more importantly, they've had answers to everything in game. They've responded to Fnatic's aggression. H2k have made proactive plays. They've punished mistakes. And H2k again have just got this, what feels like an insurmountable lead in game 2. There's only 2 more Nexuses that H2k have to kill. This one and the next game to qualify for semi-finals.
Fnatic have looked just... The first part of the game that we were questioning was, can they 2v2? How's that going to be? There have been mistakes here and there, but I wouldn't say it has been an alarming weakness. What has been a weakness, though, is playing around it and then taking that next step, where not only do you not lose the lane or go ahead in lane, capitalize on it. Try and get yourself team plays for objectives, but Fnatic have been like on the brink of taking first tower in both games and had to back away, and H2k have just answered it beautifully in both sets.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to look at it. Starting on the front foot for Fnatic, but just not having the parity or ability to succeed. Ryu's able to zone Yellowstar already, and Cannon Barrage makes an easy tower kill for H2k. The base is open. Baron Empowered Minion still behind. Flash forward. The Gnar kind of goes the wrong direction, and nobody's stunned up. Fnatic gonna look for a flank on the backline. Cosmic Radiance comes out. Febi's already killed. He got the tomb away, but it simply didn't matter. Inhibitor goes down, and H2k in a 5-on-4 scenario with super minions, with Baron, with every single metric in the lead. Turn their attention to the Nexus turrets. Ryu zoning away the entire Fnatic team. He proto-belts forward as the Nexus is being focused by the minions. H2k, they're going for the KDA. They're going for the pad because they are so far ahead. And H2k are 1 Nexus away from a showdown in Krakow.
We wanted a different Fnatic to show up for game 2. We got the same Fnatic, where, again, issues, mistiming on how to set up these plays in the bottom lane, and it means H2k gets to defend every single time.
There was one adjustment Fnatic made, to their credit, but it didn't help, unfortunately. We finally saw Featherman going for those plays. And when you're going for those plays from behind, unfortunately, it looks messy, and that's why Featherman's 1-5-0, because he's trying to go in. He's like, okay, well, I'll do my job. If there's nobody there to help, like if the damage just isn't there and he can't survive, it just doesn't look impressive at all.
Definitely, and I mean, we have this problem for Fnatic where they're trying so hard to punish the 2v2 lane. A lot of people are like, oh, we want to see Forgiven against Reckless in lane, but it's not even Forgiven versus Reckless at all. It's like everyone is around this bottom lane one way or the other. The problem for Fnatic is that the mid lane, the jungle, and the top lane is now in favor of H2k.
Yep.
Odam is outplaying Kikis, Yangas is outplaying Spirit, and Rio's outplaying Febiven. So no matter what happens in the bottom lane, H2k seems to get some sort of advantage.
I think you have to talk about just how much Jankos is outplaying Spirit.
Yeah.
Because that's 2 games in a row now that Jankos has looked game-changing. Where he is, when he is there at the right time, landing on the skill shots. And it's a question I have for the analyst desk, in fact, of just how good is Jankos right now? Shucks, let's hope we can find the answer.
Well, I've got 2 people here, and one person in particular who is very hyped about Jankos has always been. Tell me, or the answer to Quickshot's question, how much of an influence has Jankos had in these 2 games, Bert?
Well, personally, I think Jankos has been XDing Spirit pretty hard this series. Power of vodka. And by the power of vodka, he has XD'd him. So I think he got it going for him. But I think, yeah, Jankos has been really good. I don't know what to say. He has definitely turned down the choking level in playoffs. So
yeah, I don't know. It's generally just whole H2k is pretty much rolling over Fnatic right now, and yes, Jankos is doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, I mean, I think that summarizes it pretty well. We were looking so much into the bottom lane hype, this and that, but the bottom line here is Fnatic is not here. It seems like they're not here, and H2k is on super form. Always the age-old question, is H2k just playing so well that we don't see Fnatic? But I feel like it's a little bit of both.
Well, I mean, we have to take a look back to the draft, because this time things were a little bit different. Something that Perks mentioned earlier on was if Kikis gets that Gnar, something that he can have a little bit more comfort on.
I was wrong.
Exert himself on, then perhaps things can go a little bit better for Fnatic, but unfortunately that wasn't really the case. Once more, a very early play resulted in things swinging heavily in the favor of H2k, I mean, we saw the fantastic use of the Nidalee really coming out from H2k and how it was properly being able to use.
Yeah, what did you make of that, by the way? Because Fnatic did ban out then the Gragas and the Elise and then opted for the Grays and then just gave the Nidalee to Jankos, but that doesn't matter at the point of it. It doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah, there was so many jungle bans, and then Nidalee was open, and they first picked Nidalee on H2k side, but it seemed like Fnatic didn't really know what to pick. Like in the Champions League, they were kind of hovering these in and stuff. And I don't even think this was the biggest problem. I think Graves can maybe do like fine because it's both like farm junglers, but I still hear that Nidalee should outpace him, as my jungler likes to say. And then they picked the Lissandra again, which I think is a bit interesting when it just happened that Vladimir pretty much I wouldn't say heavily outlaned, but he will outscale her and be able to split push against anyone.
And something that we were talking about on the desk was very much about the fact that Kassadin was left open, because he was banned in game 1, he was open in game 2, it was left all the way through the draft, and yeah, there was some vocal opinions about the use of Kassadin perhaps being picked up in this for Fnatic.
yeah, I definitely think Kassadin would have been a better choice for Fnatic here in the second game instead of Lissandra. Like blind picking Kassadin is not that dangerous in this meta because there is not many counter picks unless. Yeah, I'm not gonna say what champs, but but yeah, Kassadin is good versus Nidalee and Sivir and GP and Taric even. Like there is no hard CC like Braum or something that can CC him down, or like CC jungler like Rek'Sai or Elise. So I think Kassadin would have been a better pick, but they went for Lissandra again.
And aside from draft issues, there were also the problem of decision-making once again in the game. We saw in this replay that we're going to set up here that Fnatic did want to try something. They tried to push with the teleport early, but it didn't end up panning out in the end.
Yeah, I mean, this was something that we saw from game 1 that we wanted to see more of, was the use of the globals and trying to set up plays for Fnatic. What you're going to see at the start of this replay is Lissandra teleporting in and Fnatic trying to force a play, but unfortunately, it doesn't exactly go the way that you wanted. And I know our mid laners here were quite vocal on how this whole
Yeah,
play.
we're going to run it out, take it away.
I don't think the first TP was the big. I think it was a good play to
I think it's a
here.
good try, yeah, for
But
sure.
like,
But when they run away, like I think right now he should either cancel. I think canceling right now is really good already. But right now they just like stuck around the bot lane for so long, and Gnar wasted his TP, and then
actually I think H2k did a big misplay as well. Like auto TP top, and then they have free TP advantage from top lane, but then they use TP and they cancel it, and then it's like now you can't get tower, so now you're just standing bot 4 people doing absolutely nothing, and you will get pressure out of lane, and bot lane will come back, and
Ryu
like,
here is trolling a bit.
No, he's baiting. He's baiting. He's expecting the Fnatic brush, and so then with the rest of his team coming in from behind.
And then H2k getting the turret is like the worst thing that could possibly happen to Fnatic after spending 2 TPs and wasting so much time on bot lane, which ended up in Fabian losing a lot of creeps mid too. So I think it was like game-losing play for Fnatic already in minute 10 or whatever it was.
Yeah, game-losing play, I would agree. In this one especially because we saw Fnatic, they kept on trying to do the same thing then over and over and teleporting in the bottom lane. And then we have one more fight where, well, they felt like they had to pressure something, but they end up
But
getting...
here Fnatic is just trolling, right? Like, you can all confirm it here, they're just trolling.
This is a really deep
being into enemy jungle like that and just losing the game doesn't really help. But yeah, I mean,
after this is 100% lost. Like it's open mid game. This is open mid. I don't know. Vladimir is so fed, like he can just go inside and then he can push forever, and Lissandra is pretty useless at this point. So
the thing is, it was just Fnatic trying to pick up whatever
Yeah,
they could.
exactly.
They looked for whatever. It was just a little bit of an overzealous play that H2k did a good job of collapsing on and punishing
H2k players, the H2k chokers, but they are doing good now.
They're turning it around.
But you know, guys, this is this.
Oh, that Vladimir.
It still fits in with you predictions. This is now where Fnatic gets the reverse sweep, of course.
I want to vote that prediction right now. to 3-0 H2k and my trip to world.
Okay,
So.
if Braum and Lissandra is picked again, I predict 3-0 H2k.
But
I think
I
Fnatic
hope-
has to change their draft completely just to try something new because this hasn't been working out for them. So trying new picks, different picks in the next game can maybe give them a win or can change the turn.
It's
the
time
series
for
around.
Pico to step up to the
But
plate.
I think the mental strength without Taylor right now is a bit off. So
I mean, for you guys, it's quite entertaining probably to see because these are your possible opponents. But H2k is looking scary though, Sankox.
I would not say
I
H2k
don't
is
know.
looking scary as Fnatic
Yeah.
is looking bad, but
Well, that depends on how
Let's
you
see.
view
how
it.
do you look?
They're good at punishing Fnatic's mistakes, but this mistake in bot lane was like really huge mistake that should never happen from a top team.
Didn't I hear you say they were going to win the split, H2k?
Yes. They're super hyped now. Holy moly.
All right, just pushing away the favoritism. So
It's lost.
the
It's
underdog.
lost.
Given his back to rule the split, to rule them all.
Well, we'll see what happens. In any case, we're going to take a break as right now H2k is up 2-0 so far. So they have only one game left to win before they make it all the way to Krakow. And you can also get tickets for Krakow for the Summer Split Finals.
You can watch me there.
Yes, you
Same.
can watch Berks there. Head over to lolesports.com for details or how you can be at the event all the teams are fighting for. So be right back.
Bye.